Black Cat is coming to Marvel Rivals, and I genuinely think she's going to be an absolute demon. I think she's going to be an S tier DPS. I think she's going to absolutely change the meta and probably ruin the game for a lot of players, especially support players. This video is basically going to be me going into her powers. What could they be based on her lore and based on the game, and how I think that she could fit into Marvel Rivals. And genuinely, I think the ult might be a little bit broken, but I'll see what you guys think. But before I do all that, there's one elephant in the room that needs to be addressed, and that is... because clearly the devs know what they're doing and they're going to release like 1,000 Guna skins for this character. Guang needs his bonus and he deserves it, and we are going to be giving it to him for the next 5 years once Black Cat comes into the game. But let's get into the kit. I think Black Cat's kit is going to be really focused around mobility. I think she's going to be like an acrobatic type character similar to Spider-Man and Black Panther, but with a really nice balance of kind of verticality and ground combat. So the passive I've come up with is called 9 Lives, and basically it's all about Black Cat thriving in the chaos of aerial combat. So when Black Cat damages an enemy shortly after being airborne, that could be abilities, that could be her jumping off things, that kind of thing, she deals increased damage and gains temporary bonus health. I know we don't like bonus health, but I think in the game we're in at the moment where everyone gets bonus health, if you don't have bonus health, that's a massive disadvantage. The basic attack that kind of 9 Lives would boost up would be Claw Strikes, which is a series of quick kind of claw attacks, and I think the range would have to be a little bit wider than melee range, just because of her being like more of a skirmisher that's very acrobatic. I think you need a little bit of range to it so she can attack from the air, and that's how I see it. I see it as kind of like the boost applies to maybe the first few attacks, or maybe a kind of like a duration, so maybe like 5 seconds after she lands, something like that, just so that she gets that value from the claw strikes. And it wouldn't be massive amounts of damage added to it. It would just be kind of like maybe a stacking amount based on how many abilities she uses, something along those lines. Let me know in the comments what you think it should be like. And yeah, before you say anything, I am skipping over the ultimate. I'm saving it to the end. I'm evil like that, and it's the best and most interesting ability, so good things come to those who wait. All right, the first mobility ability is Light-Footed Leap, and this is basically Black Cat leaping forward and chaining her movement by latching onto up to 3 nearby surfaces before landing, so she can kind of bounce between a couple of walls. Looking at the Marvel Rivals maps, they're so dynamic, they've got so much verticality to them. You could really see how we're missing a character that's able to leap between walls. I genuinely thought Daredevil was going to be able to do this, and then he really disappointed me. So I think Black Cat is going to absolutely bridge that gap, and you can picture it. Imagine you're a support kind of sat in the backline and you just see this demon kind of jumping towards you. It would be absolutely terrifying, but so fun to play. And in addition to this mobility, she also gets a boost to her attack based on the number of surfaces that she clings to. This could also be like an attack at the end of the jump, like if she leaps off, she might get like a frenzy kind of attack, but I like the idea of everything kind of centering around her claw strike. And this ability would also be one of her major kind of escape tactics. Remember, I said she's going to be kind of like a skirmisher who excels at kind of going in and out of combat, so she needs this kind of ability to jump on walls, off walls, all around the map. She's going to be an absolute demon to face against. This next ability is really how she initiates combat, especially against like supports or vulnerable characters. If someone's on low health, she can go from the air or from her kind of light-footed leap into this ability. It's called High Stakes Heist, and basically she uses her grappling hook to get close to an enemy, and then if she hits them, she's going to latch onto them briefly and do massive damage and disable their abilities for a short duration. I think they'd still be able to move around, but it would kind of stop them being able to do any abilities, so they could run back into their team and Black Cat could get absolutely annihilated, which means she needs to pick the right moment to tackle those people when they're on their own and out of position. She'd be an absolute killer at spawn camping. I think a grappling hook would be a really great way for her to escape combat as well and kind of dart in and out. I don't think she'd be as mobile as Spider-Man or as annoying as Spider-Man. She'd be a lot more visible, but I think she'd also be really impactful in that same kind of role. And before we get into the really interesting stuff where she actually uses superpowers, let's look at Feline Grace, which is basically her double jump. This ability would essentially allow her to kind of jump at the end of her ability or to chain abilities together, but this is basically her way of essentially extending her abilities and keeping up her kind of 9 Lives passive going so that she can deal the most damage possible. Now, when I was researching this video, I saw one of her superpowers, which is super interesting, and I was like, how on earth can you get it into the game? And that is her ability to manipulate probability fields and cause bad luck for enemies. So the first ability that kind of implements this is Tychokinetic Shield, or Tychokinetic Shield. I don't know how to pronounce it, but essentially what this is going to be is a shield mechanic, but it doesn't actually block damage. It just encourages the enemy team to have bad luck. Now, obviously, I don't think you can actually give someone bad luck in the game, but I think if it was like a shield kind of mechanic, the bullets would kind of like go around her, or like a mag ult would kind of like go around her instead of being deflected like a Captain America shield. I think that would be a really cool way of implementing her power into the game in a defensive way, and give her a bit of survivability if she's like in the enemy backline, she needs to kind of defend herself, then escape with a grappling hook. I think that would be a really cool way of making that character work. And it probably goes without saying that this would need a cooldown or some sort of overheat mechanic, because otherwise it would be ridiculously OP because she'd just be invincible for a few seconds. So we'd need to have some sort of balance there. But I think in concept, it's a pretty cool idea. And now onto the ultimate. Now, I don't know if this would actually go into the game. I don't know if the devs would let this happen, but if they really wanted to get in her ability to manipulate probability fields into the game, this would be the coolest way to do it, and that is Unlucky Break. And this is the part where I'm going to get a lot of hate comments, but I don't care because I think it's class and I'd love to see it in the game. But essentially, Black Cat is going to cast a field in front of her, and any enemy caught in that field will have their movement controls inverted, their ability cooldowns will be reset to the maximum cooldown, and they'll be unable to activate ultimate abilities whilst they're inside the field. They can move out of it, of course they can, but they would not be able to do any of those things whilst they're in there. And I think that's the only way you can kind of simulate bad luck, is if their movement controls are inverted. Enemies in the effective range also take additional damage whenever they use their attacks, so kind of like they get punished for using their attacks almost as if they're shooting themselves or using their abilities on themselves. That kind of thing is how I kind of see it happening. And then yeah, it's basically just like a bad luck field in front of her for a little bit. So again, she'd probably use this in team fights to really kind of turn the tide of them, or to kind of save herself when she's kind of in the back line and if the enemy kind of come back to peel for their supports. That's kind of how I see it. Now for team-up abilities, obviously there's going to be something with Spider-Man. There has to be. There can't just be voice lines. There has to be something like a team-up ability with Spider-Man, and it's got to be Spider-Man doing something to do with the probability field. That is how I see it. Maybe he gets a little shield, something like that. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I think they're going to have a team-up. And then the second team-up I think will happen is White Fox. White Fox is going to be the next character in kind of season 7.5. I'm going to do a concept on that next week, so look out for that. But I think White Fox is going to be the other team-up ability. Please let me know if you've got any ideas for White Fox down below, and if there's anything you'd change about this concept. I want to know everything. I want to have a discussion about what you would change, what you would add, what you would take away, and if I've missed any powers that she has, because I did a bit of research, but I'm not sure if there's anything that I missed. And who do you think is next? Who do you think is season 8? Because I have no clue. I'd love Ghost Rider personally, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon. But leave a like and subscribe to let me know that you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.